It's not too often that a game comes around that revolutionizes the video game industry. Well, on the PlayStation, that game was Metal Gear Solid. For the PlayStation 2, that game is Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty.
Hey, I'm at Konami in Redwood City, California. I'm with Ken Ogasawara, who is the localization producer for Metal Gear Solid 2. I want you to tell us why it's so special.
Graphically, we know we've got the best game out there. Gameplay-wise, there's so much you can do, so many ways that you can beat the bosses, so many ways that you can get through the game. His bandana floating in the wind. He had one programmer working on that exclusively to make sure it looked right, that it looked natural. That's where this game really shines. I mean, it's about the details. Yeah. Where if you can think of something, try it out, because more often than not, it will work.
So tell us about the different weapons and different tools that you get to use in the game.
A lot of the weapons that you get in the game are the same from before, but our favorite new one has got to be the tranquilizer.
The tranquilizer?
Because now you can run around through the game without knocking off a single enemy.
For those that don't know, what's the big surprise?
The big surprise this time around is that Solid Snake isn't your main character throughout the game. We get a new character running around, and his name is Raiden.
Now, it's a real sensitive time around the world right now. There's terrorist attacks happening for real. There's also terrorist attacks happening in this game. And there was talk that you guys were going to postpone this game. What happened during the course of discussions about Metal Gear and its appropriateness for this time?
This game certainly doesn't promote terrorism in any way. I mean, Solid Snake is going in there to stop it. Raiden is going in there to stop it. So there was some sensitive scenes that we thought at the time wouldn't be appropriate. We made the call to take a few of those scenes out.
Right.
But it doesn't change the game, and it certainly didn't change the message in the game either.
What is the message?
How our society is turning into a digital society, and how much information is there, and how much important, trivial, all sorts of information that's in an uncontrolled state because of the net.
Right.
And it looks at the ramifications of that.
I'm with Jesse Beal from Seventh Heaven. How you doing?
Good, thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You're at a PlayStation 2 party.
Yeah.
And are you a video game fan at all? Do you play games?
Yeah, I'm a video game fan. I really like the old school, like Nintendo 1.
Nintendo 1? What rocks your world up? Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt, Mario 1, Mario 3, Street Fighter.
Street Fighter classics.
Just those old school games that you just can't, I mean, you know, just jump, kick, punch, that's
Absolutely.
all.
You think if I created a petition for Nintendo to sort of bring back Duck Hunt, to bring back a 3D Duck Hunt, would you sign that petition?
Yes.
Yes?
Absolutely. I just bought a Nintendo with Duck Hunt and everything included for 19 bucks.
She loves games. You hear that? That's awesome. We love Jesse.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Have a great time tonight. Today on Question of the Week, Jeff Kay from Tulsa, Oklahoma asks, why do cinematics in games look better than the actual gameplay?
The reason, historically, that video games have not looked nearly as good as the full-motion video movies that you see at the beginning and end of most video games is because video game technology over the last few years has not been nearly as powerful as the SGI workstations that have powered movies like Final Fantasy or Shrek. The hurdle has always been making the graphics interactive, but with the new systems like the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, and the Xbox, we're going to start seeing performances and experiences like you've never seen before. Games like Metal Gear Solid 2, Silent Hill 2, Final Fantasy X, all these games have graphics that look as good as the full-motion videos we were seeing a couple of years ago. And as companies get more familiar with the hardware, I think we're going to start seeing even better results.
If you have a question about the video game industry, visit our website at www.electplay.com, or if you're mobile, wap.electplay.com. Say what you will about Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, there's no denying the fact that it was a groundbreaking achievement in computer-generated visuals. With a feature-packed DVD now on the market, we thought it was a great time to talk with some of the key people and some of the stars involved in the creation of this very innovative movie.
So did you ever think you'd be in a movie based around a video game?
I was doing it not because of the video game, not because they said it was going to be breakthrough technology and ground shaking. You know, I've heard that before. that doesn't mean a lot. But the script was really exquisite. I loved it, and that's why I did it.
What did you think the first time you saw these visuals?
Technologically, I guess it was incredible. But in terms of the beauty of the image, in terms of the landscape, the painterliness of it, the creative skills of those people, gosh, breathtaking.
And what was it like working with somebody who'd come from a video game designer realm? You've worked with a lot of directors. Was it different? Was it new, unique?
I was so in awe of the animators. You know, Sakaguchi-san, really, he saw this mountain. He had this vision of what he wanted to create and be the first to be on top of this mountain of CGI animation and photorealism qualities, and he's achieved it in a very short amount of time.
So what's harder to do, a video game or a movie?
まあそれぞれ難しいところあるんだけど。
In this movie project, our goal was to create realistic characters. That's why it was difficult. But in a game, if we decided to make realistic characters, it would be difficult as well.
Why did you decide to create a brand new story with new characters as opposed to using the video game characters?
In the Final Fantasy games, it is always different. They have different characters involved in different stories, so it's only natural to have new characters and a separate story for the movie as well. We do have prevailing themes throughout the Final Fantasy games, especially Final Fantasy 7 and 9. They both have very strong themes about life and death, life after death, and the spirit, and I feel we've captured that essence in the movie as well.
You know, Final Fantasy has been one of the biggest selling video games of all time. Well, wait till you see what Square has in store for you next with Final Fantasy X for the PlayStation 2.
We're here at Squaresoft today talking to Brody Phillips about Final Fantasy X. Now, Final Fantasy has been a phenomenon in the entertainment world. Some people said that Final Fantasy IX was kind of a summary of the series, and then that Final Fantasy X is going to be a reflection of what's to come in Final Fantasy. Do you think that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, I think that in 9 they really tried to include a lot of the elements from the previous series, just to kind of wrap it up because it was the last one on the PlayStation. And now that FF10 is going to be on the PlayStation 2, they're really putting as many new features as possible into the game.
Tell me about the storyline that we can be expecting.
Well, this game's about a blitzball player named Tidus. And the game begins in his hometown of Zanarkand, and he witnesses his town get destroyed by this thing called Sin. And later he gets sucked into Sin and appears in a completely different world. The story is about his travels in the land, and along the way he meets up with lots of people like Yuna, who's a summoner, Wakka, who's another blitzball player. Throughout their journeys, they develop relationships with each other.
Are there any other mini-games in the game?
There's a blitzball game that's playable within the story. Rule-wise, it's very similar to water polo, but it's played totally underwater, and it's a full contact sport. And by playing tournament games, you can gain new items that way.
One of the cool things about Final Fantasy X is that there's more swapping going on. Tell me about that.
That's right. For the first time in Final Fantasy, once you're in a fight, you can switch party members in and out on the fly. When you take a party member out, a new person comes back in and you can use them right on the spot. You don't lose anything by doing it. It really introduces a lot more strategy into the game. If you have someone who's powerful against a certain monster, you recognize that and boom, you bring him in right away to deal with it. The battle system is all turn-based now, and so the player has a lot less stress thinking that while they're navigating through these menus, a monster might thwack him. That's not the case anymore. When it's a player's turn, they can take all the time they want to take their action that they want.
Final Fantasy X is going to be on DVD. Why'd you decide to do that?
Now with the DVD, since the compression is so good, we can put the whole game on just one disc, so there's no more swapping discs in and out.
Each new Final Fantasy game introduces new characters. Why do you guys always change characters on us?
We think it's important to start with a blank slate every time so that we can take the story in a direction that the players have no preconditioned ideas about. Also, with everything new that we're bringing in, we can take that further within the game, like a new enemy, new relationships. And I think that newness, that reinvigoration of the series is something that's kept it going for so long.
My final Final Fantasy question, a little Brody test. Can you name every Final Fantasy character from the very beginning of the series?
Well, yeah, like now we got like Tidus, we got Yuna, we got Auron, Wakka, Lulu, we got Latsu and Lutsu. Like from 9, we got like Vivi, we got Steiner, Zidane, Freya, you know, there's Cloud, Sephiroth, you know, oh, I skipped Renoa, and there's also...
After this, EP talks to pro skateboarder Bob Burnquist.